Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Edna White. I'm so glad you're here with me today. And today we're going to talk about bad decisions and how to make better decisions. So, this is part of a I guess, a module of the wonderful inner circle. And we're going to discuss about decisions because, we make decisions every day and some of them don't require a lot of thinking, and others require some thought and some information, and some good information, some logic, and just to make, and actually some feelings, just to make a good decision. So we're going to talk about that today. So get ready. Get your thinking caps on, to get your pen, your paper, and some persistence because we're going to get through this. I'm going to dig real deep and we're going to be really honest with ourselves. So let's get started. So we know that decisions always come up. They always are a part, they're going to be a part of our lives no matter what, right? Um, there's a lot of people who've written, smart people who've written thousands of books on decision making. Many of them have won Nobel Prizes and prestigious awards. I have won awards, but not that big just yet. So I am going to share with you my experience. And I thought that I would, kind of reflect on my experience and how I made decisions, and be a regular person that needed to make some smart choices but didn't. How's that? So most of us are capable of making smart choices. You know that we're the most intelligent and most advanced species on the planet. But our history suggests we all have some good stories about bad decisions making skills. So we have some whole history of some bad decisions we made. So we're going to try to work on those today. So why do we make poor decisions? We don't want our decisions to be bad. Listen, we don't wake up in the morning and we say, look in the mirror and say, yeah, girl, you're going to make some really fucked up choices today. We don't do that, right? We don't wake up and look in the mirror and say that. No. There are so many situations and so many variables at play that's it's incredibly difficult to have a single formula for everyone. And I don't want to have a single formula for everyone. I want you to be able to use your logic, use your intellect, use your decision making skills, which are yes or no, never maybe, but yes or no. So I want to just push you towards that. So we make thousands of decisions every day. We should I move my hand? Should I get up in the morning? Should I get out of the bed? They don't need a lot of, thought, but there are some decisions that leave a lasting impact on our careers, our relationships, our health, and other aspects of our lives. A number of factors influence us into making poor decisions. Now, understanding how they contribute to our poor choices could help us make better decisions. So we're going to delve into that. And we delve into this in the my group that's on Facebook, the Wonderful Inner Circle, which is for the year $99. And I am giving everyone an opportunity to have this, this service and this one-to-one with me. Um, More like a coaching session, more like a coaching group that gets, really personal and digs deep into subjects. And that's $99 per year. But I'm giving away the 30-day trial to everyone in the beginning. So you can see what you're going to get. Because you want to feel what you're going to get. And sometimes it may not be what you want. But I'm telling you, the content here in this group, we're going to have, some good talk. We're going to have some deep thoughts and deep talk, but we're always going to make changes and grow. So let's get back to the subject at hand. What causes poor decisions? We have a tendency to associate one thing with another. If someone is intelligent, we assume he or she is also excellent at making decisions. I heard something the other day while I was watching football, and of course, I was watching the Buccaneers and the Rams play. And the commentator said about this one quarterback, oh, his family must have raised him right because he is had went to college and he did this much stuff and he did this and he did and gave a laundry list of what he did that equated that he was raised right. Well, who says that? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? That's how we relate. We assume that there's that package is together. If someone is wealthy, we assume he or she is a wise person. If someone is well, you figure, you get the idea, right? You get it. You get the whole idea. So high intelligence does not automatically make us better at decision making. The most intelligent individuals belonging to the most advanced species have made horrible decisions in business, relationship, health, and other aspects of their lives. So we are so advanced. What causes us to make poor decisions? Here are a few things I think that might have a play in it. Number one is misplaced objectives. In an uncertain world, we make almost all our decisions based on the perceived reward versus punishment. Okay, so like when I was deciding on to go to school, right? I didn't want to hear my mother's mouth, so I decided I'm going to go to college because I didn't want to hear her mouth, right? I didn't want to hear that she was going to disown me. I'm not saying she would have, but oh, it's not going to be great. You're not going to get a job. You're not going to do it. I perceived that the punishment was going to be greater than me not making the decision. We decide based on how we expect to be rewarded. Just like we decide on a job to say, oh, let me take this job, right? Because it has benefits, it has this, a pension plan, it has this, it has this. And then what happens? It turns out that that job is not the greatest atmosphere for us to be in, for us to grow, and we are punished for it, right? But we always think the punishment is at the end because we don't have another way in our minds that we're going to get the benefits, the pension. We don't have those rewards, so we want to see that reward at the end. So what do if we're wrong? Right? We don't want to take the chance of not being wrong if that job is not the only job and it doesn't make us flourish. Okay, that's fine. If we don't grow, we can't use our intellect, we can't use all of who we are, right? That's okay. I will get this reward at the end. And you spend 25, 30, 40 years in a job only to find out being free is the best thing you've ever felt in your life, right? But you didn't want to feel the punishment of what if I'm wrong? All that's fine. But things go awry every day when we misplace the objective to conform to our own expectations, our ego, our authority, or a group of people that we want to impress, right? Our ego is our biggest problem. We don't want to fail. I've spoken to so many clients who know they're supposed to get divorced, know they're living a miserable life, but their ego says, I'm going to challenge this, I'm going to get through this no matter what, right? I don't want another failed marriage. I don't want another failed relationship. Well, guess what? Things go awry, and you're not the only one that go awry. But would you rather have the punishment of being unhappy or the reward, your so called reward, of having a relationship that's empty? Think about that. So when we misplace the objective, we stray away from making the right decision. That part of us knows we should have made. Okay. And then we try to justify it logically and rationally. Well, we don't want to be a statistic, or the Bible says that we shouldn't do this, or, you know, something that your parents said. We rationalize it so that the choice is okay. So it makes the choice the right choice. Even though it gives us a good story to tell, it doesn't make our decision better. So we can say we were married for 40 years, but the marriage was horrible. Or we were together for 6 years, but it was horrible and you were unhappy. I was at a job for 25 whole years, retirement is here, and it was the worst decision you ever made. Okay? Number two, analysis paralysis. And we know all about this sometimes, right? Some of us do anyway. Analysis paralysis is when we spend way too much time overthinking or over analyzing a problem. I've done that so many times. Even in my marriage, I've over analyzed it all. If I only did this, maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that to make this better. But you're making the momentary part of it better, but the overall extension of it, you're not making any better. Instead of moving forward with a decision, we get stuck in an analysis loop. The inaction could lead to missed opportunities or unexpected punishments. See, I received unexpected punishments by being in a relationship that shouldn't have been, and I should have stopped it. I should have ended it. And I gained a lot of punishment from it, more pain than I should have. And if I would have cut it off in 2 years versus 8 years, I wouldn't have had so much punishment to me. Analysis paralysis often occurs when there's an unidentified number of variables at play. The facts and the data don't lead us to pros and cons lists or the rewards and the punishments, which is a high degree of confidence. See, when we have the facts and we have the data, we have to have the confidence to put that together and say either no more or make a decision, yes or no. We don't have the confidence. We lack the high degree of confidence to put those two things together. Rewards versus punishment. Do we stay? Do we go? Right? We lack the confidence, that piece in the middle to get us to make a decision. Number three, waiting for more information. I have a few clients that are always asking other people for their information and gathering all this information. And I call them hoarders, information hoarders. When you have this information, how you feel, how you don't want to feel, or the punishment versus the reward. You have all of that, but then you go and ask someone else, what do you think? What do you think I should do? So you're waiting for more data to appear. Sometimes when we don't have the data needed to make a decision, we choose to wait for it. We spend way too much time waiting for the information. So it's like asking a person a question, a yes and a no question. And you wait for the answer. But the answer never comes. So does that make you to wait for their answer? That's for waiting for information. You're waiting for someone else to make the decision for you. Or you're waiting for more data from another person who absolutely has the answer, but won't give it to you because if you're not using your complete gut feeling about a decision, you feel you don't have enough information. See, we often make decisions based on incomplete data, some gut feeling, and some past experiences. And then we keep adjusting as new information becomes available. I've learned, don't hesitate to change your mind when the facts change. If we wait for 100% data, it will be too late. Even Amazon, the founder of Bezos, doesn't wait for all the data. He says he makes decisions based on 70% of the data. That's good enough for him. So if it's good enough for someone who's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, I think it's good enough for us. Waiting could mean missing out on some wonderful opportunities, a wonderful love, a wonderful life, happiness, a great job or profession. Number four, not thinking it through. It's important to collect data and facts and to draw from your past experiences while making a decision. But researchers have found that we don't spend enough time thinking about a problem. Thinking doesn't feel like work and progress. And your superiors probably want you to see you working. So you work at your job, right? Or your 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 other significant other doesn't go on your feelings because that doesn't show progress. So you wait for them to give you an answer, right? And you keep trudging through the relationship. According to researchers, most decision makers allocate no more than 25% of their time to think about a given problem. Instead, we choose to spend extra amounts of time collecting data and information. Without giving sufficient time to think it through, we fail to gain context on the situation. Context comes from a broad and deep understanding. That requires you to have some experience on what you're going through. So, past experience is very important to kind of lay in there, right? There's a Bollywood movie that's has a lot of singing in it. I don't like any singing, right? And it's a singing movie. But what would happen if there was no singing in a movie that was supposed to have singing? Right. It's incomplete, right? It's totally incomplete. So there it is. If it's supposed to have a complete look to it, if it's supposed to be complete and there's something that's missing or things that are missing or big parts that are missing, guess what? It's time to make a decision. We have intuitive feelings and opinions about almost everything coming our way. We like or dislike someone without even meeting or getting to know them well. We feel that a company is going to succeed even if without analyzing it. When we make a decision without thinking it through, we are trying to satisfy our existing opinions and our intuitive feelings. We need to spend more time reflecting on the problem at hand and updating our understanding. Sort of like when you're first involved with someone, and I always say this to a lot of my relationship clients, what's wrong with dating to get to know someone? Why would you want to get full into a relationship with someone that maybe in several months from there you want to leave? What's wrong with dating, getting to know someone and getting to know dating and getting to know other people? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with initially I know there's a movie that's called 21 First Dates. If we were like that, we would be able to say, yeah, I get it. Can we fall in love with that same thought each time? You know? So, what's wrong with having first dates? What's wrong with initially getting to know the job and then if you don't like it, saying, okay, this is not for me? Even though you think the reward is great at the end, what's wrong with having the confidence to say, I think I can find something better that will give me the reward at the end instead of taking the punishment in the middle? All right. Number five, confusing luck with skill. Bill Gates said, success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose, right? We are supposed to evaluate our past decisions in a way that helps us minimize the probable mistakes of the future. But we evaluate our decisions based on the outcome, not the process. We forget all about the process, and we that outcome, that wedding dress, that outcome, that pension, that outcome. We wait for that. We want that, but we forget about the process. Like I talked about the dating. What's wrong with that dating? You don't have to move in right away. What's wrong with the dating? I see so many court shows that so many people jump into a relationship right away and end up in court trying to divide property or get property back. That's a punishment for a bad decision. When we get the desired outcome, we happily accept that it was our skill, even if it was luck or another factor beyond our control. So our reality is skill plus luck equals outcome. What do we believe? Is skill a good outcome? Bad luck is bad outcome? We don't critique our decisions when the outcome is similar to what we expected. We critique them only when the outcome is disappointing. Did you hear that? We critique them only when the outcome is disappointing. When we confuse luck with skill, we're giving ourselves a false sense of strong belief that we're in control of things. That puts us at risk of making stupid decisions that we would regret. And I've had plenty of them. Six, our own intelligence. When you spend more than 2 decades of your life and a vast amount of your parents' money on education, it's difficult to accept that higher education and good decision making are two different things. Some educated people are good at making decisions, but not all. The intelligent and educated people have acquired a lot of knowledge. They have their own world view. They try to fit the real world in on their own boxes of theories and explanations instead of accepting it as it is. You know how we say it is what it is? We don't view things like that. We don't think like that. Smart people have an insightful and detailed explanation why something went wrong. They can pull a 132-page document full of jargon and complex calculations to convince you why it's the right decision. Like I talked about earlier, but it can be simple and clear. Like my mom can say one sentence and explains everything. It's very simple and it's very clear. And it's one sentence that explains the same thing, but just simply. If the same people are asked to judge the decisions of others, they take a more objective view. It happens because when thinking about our own decisions, part of our brain is trying to justify the elaborate stories. But when we look at others' decisions, we are unaware of the internal dialogue inside the person's head. We just look at the data process and the analysis and their actions. So we're easy to make decisions on other people's, but we're not easy to make decisions for ourselves. And we say we don't judge other people, but your mind is calculating, making, analysis. My youngest son, says, um, he said, I look at my older brother and all the decisions he makes, and I won't make the same mistakes. And that's good and bad. But he's looking at the data and he's processing his punishments and he's looking at the analysis, but he's not looking at the actions of what really was happening and the process. We have to do that. Sometimes even the most complex problems require simple solutions. Simply like Nancy Reagan saying, don't do drugs. Simple, right? Just simple. But our intelligence pushes us to complex solutions. We always want to rationalize and make it bigger than what it is. I often talk to some of my clients who have this broad, either broad intellect of well, their vocabulary is broad, or their spiritual vocabulary is broad, and they give me all this fluff, and I'm like, what are you really saying in English? Give it to me plain. Make it plain. Make your decision plain. What's the use of all the knowledge, the degrees, and experiences we do have when we don't keep it simple and say it or do it that a layman can understand it? Listen, having education and skills and education doesn't set us apart. Having religion doesn't set us apart. We need to connect to the complex solution to prove to the world how valuable we are. We need to connect to ourselves to have a simple solution. Number 7, recent embarrassment. Let's say you have suffered a setback recently. Maybe you got fired or transferred to a location where nobody wants to go. Or maybe you took too much of consumer debt and now you're unable to pay your debts off in time. You are forced to cut back on spending, sell your car, or move to a smaller house. The consequences of your past decisions are now visible to friends and acquaintances and colleagues, and most importantly, relatives. Now you are embarrassed. This embarrassment and the baggage of recent events are going to cloud your thoughts and decisions, most likely in a negative way, impairing you to make a good decision or the right decision. 8, misplaced focus on an individual player. Okay. Your behavior and your characteristics of another person have a big influence on you. So say it's your pastor, your husband, your children. Just say there's someone that has a impact on you that makes you make decisions. As I explained before, my mother, asked me, what am I going to do for college? What am I going to school? What am I going to do? Am I going to complete school? What am I going to do? That's a person. That's a third person. That's an individual player in your life that will create a cause and effect on a decision you're going to make, right? I see it all the time with my clients. It's a misplaced focus on an individual, or it could be a component, and makes us believe that we don't understand what the cause and effect is, and we have to do what they say. It could be a religious leader, it could be anyone that has a play in your decisions. Sometimes even the best individual, no matter what level of actions they are, lead to bad consequences for your entire decision making system. 9, our environment. Directly or indirectly, our environment has a huge impact on our decision making. Most of the time, we don't even know how we're influenced because the environment influences us subconsciously. To prevent the situation from influencing our decision, we need a high degree of self awareness. Self awareness is so important because it also thwarts peer pressure in any environment from making a decision. Self awareness, if you start it at a young age, even if you start it now, it will prevent you from making bad decisions, peer pressure, even bullying from someone. It increases your awareness that you have confidence. Researchers also say that we are influenced by commercials, right? They decide our purchasing decisions. And we'll go to the store and we'll say, oh, well, Voss water is better than spring. What is it? Spring water or whatever. And it's because it's in a glass bottle. It's more expensive, and so it changes our influence. Just like we on a radio station, we hear a radio station. They don't play all of the music. They play what's paid for, and that influences what you listen to or what you shop for. Is that a coincidence? No. Researchers call it priming, but about 86% of the shoppers deny that music has an influence on their purchase decisions. We have to remember that our environment, what we listen to, who we listen to, what we see, right? Who we talk to influences us in making decisions. 10, know it all attitude. Some of us have a know it all attitude. We know everything. No kidding. I'm serious. Some of us know everything. We are accurate experts and we make predictions of the future, and yet we act like, or we make decisions that make no sense, right? It's all about our attitude. It's all about our attitude and what we think, because know it all really means you don't want to hear it all because you want to be in control. Yeah, it may seem that they're overconfident, but what it really means is there's no confidence because they don't want to be wrong, so they don't hear what you have to say, and they know everything. So it could be inaccurate. Do you have a know-it-all attitude? Do you shut out evidence that's contrary to your predictions or your what's going on? Are you open for ideas and beliefs? And are you extremely slow at adapting to change? Sometimes all of that, not having all of that, stops you from making a good decision and helps you make very bad decisions. Now, how do you get better at decision making? What does good decision mean? What does a good decision mean? Does it mean a decision that leads to the expected outcome? No. We are still dealing with probabilities, uncertainties, past experiences, limited data, and our own biases. A good decision isn't determined by the outcome, though it does increase the likelihood of the desired outcome. A good decision is the one that is sensible, logical, and informed for the person under that circumstance. Some famous business leaders and entrepreneurs have a straightforward method. Say no to everything. You can't say hell yeah to. But it works only in limited situations. For instance, when you have to decide between yes or no. We live in a dynamic world. We make complex decisions every day, the kind of decisions that require a deeper brainstorming. Here are a few ways to help you get a better decision and make better decisions. Number one, is it reversible or irreversible? Can your decision be reversed? Is it irreversible? We don't have to spend that much time on decision making if we just have this one question answered by us. We don't have to be perfect. In, in this fast moving world, It's a competitive advantage to be able to make more decisions quickly. If you take too long to make a reversible decision, you could miss out on a huge opportunity, or your competitors could jump on it ahead of you. Or just like if you know that you're supposed to end a relationship and you keep going on and on and on, you just put off the inevitable and then you gain more punishment along the way. Is it reversible? Is it reversible? Irreversible. Reversible requires you to decide quickly. Irreversible, decide carefully. Number two, have a beginner's mind. There's a study that says that there's a terrible track record of predicting things. Most of them are wrong because they had an expert's mind and they were overconfident about it. The small numbers of experts that were relatively better at predicting future trends and events were open to new ideas, arguments, and possibilities. They didn't carry the burden of their past preconceptions. They were aware that they were dealing with a dynamic environment where most of the things are uncertain, like relationships, right? Like jobs, like life. A streak of past successes minimize the incentives to explore new ideas, especially when it predicts the strategy that has worked well over the past. It's like, well, my parents have been married 50 years. I can do it. But you're missing information because you're not your parents. Although you're part of them, you don't know what they went through in all of that, right? So you have to get the real feedback if you're going to replicate somebody's life. Or do this, just create your own life. Just make decisions for your own life. Live on the cutting edge of innovation. Get new ideas on what a relationship is supposed to look like. Three, look at the expected value. Having a relationship with someone is healthy. Having a good job that on being around people who are healthy, and have an expected value for you, and know your value, and have diversity and inclusion, creates an atmosphere for growth and nurtures you to be better than the job that you're really in the first place. It has all positive outcomes, and it's expected to have a great a great outcome. We don't need to be complex about any of this, right? We don't need to be flipping a coin. We don't need to figure it all out. We just need to have the value. See, in every situation that I've explained to you, there's a value to it. We forget the value and we leap right to the reward or supposed reward. We can't have control over life, although we would like to. When I learned to go with the flow and be able to use my intuition and my skill and past experience, I was able to make better decisions that had a better outcome for me. Even though maybe it kind of hurt me, or it did hurt me, or made me cry or feel lonely at some point, it had a better outcome for me. Four, focus on not losing instead of winning. See, we always want to win. You always want the great reward, but not losing is softer on the brain and on the brain patterns, right? It's much softer. It's more digestible. It's like the tortoise and the hare, right? The race goes to the fastest person, but if he trips and falls, or if he's too arrogant and he sits down and goes to sleep, the tortoise goes right ahead of him and takes a healthy lead, because there's arrogance in winning, but there's no arrogance in not losing. 5, create a weighted pros and cons list. When I was getting divorced, this was my thing. I wrote down what was good about it and what was bad about it. And it helped me make a more important decision in my life. I took two pieces of paper and I listed the pros on one side and I listed the cons on the other. Then I number them from 1 to 0. I mean, from 0 to 10, 1 to 0. And I put the highest score as 10. On the second sheet of paper, I listed all the negative things and I assigned them a score 0 to 10. And in this list, a score of 10 means the biggest drawback. The score you assign to each pros and cons depends on the relative importance of the points. Add up the scores and the pros and cons. If the score is positive and it's at least 2 times the negative, you should do it. But if the positive score is less than twice the negative, you need to think again. Or maybe you shouldn't do it. Or maybe you should end it. That's a good exercise for you to do. Get those 2 sheets of paper and do that. Pros and cons, whether it be a job, relationship, marriage, writing a book, you know, making a move, whatever it is. Decide for yourself. Use the pros and cons checklist. 6, disapprove yourself. This is one of the most effective ways of constantly making good decisions. It's common for people to disapprove their thesis, the decision making process, or something else after the outcome is known. But it takes a lot of courage, a lot of discipline, and self awareness to ruthlessly, there you go, challenge and disapprove your own assumptions before making a decision. See, I had to do that in my marriage because I had an subconscious thought marriage is honorable in the sight of the Lord and what God has put together and that no man put asunder. I had that in my mind, but God didn't marry us because if God married us, it would be not be filled with punishment, right? It wouldn't be. So I had to disapprove my own assumptions. When you face decisions, explore ideas and possibilities that contradict your existing beliefs and assumptions. It will drive you to look at things from a variety of perspectives and minimize the chances of bad decisions. Something similar happens in a scientific community. A scientist submits her research to a publication and researchers from all around the world to look at it, to scrutinize it. They will point out all the loopholes and flaws in her assumptions, methodology, etc. The broader scientific community tries to disapprove her research. If it stands the test of peer review, it has a chance of being widely accepted. So why would you? You have to disapprove yourself and be open for all the ideas so that because sometimes your idea is linear when the bigger picture is more broad. Number 7, long-term perspective versus short-term perspective. And I know that we talk about relationships, talking about jobs, right? They're always thought of as long-term. And there's a whole lot of socioeconomic levels that we kind of generate in our mind about jobs and relationships. But do we really pay attention to the long-term future of us? Do we really take in account of what that perspective is going to be for us? Does it dramatically improve the quality of us? Does it dramatically change those who are involved in the decision? Is it short term? Is it long term? The decision has to be quality and it has to improve. your life dramatically. Number 8, think slow. Constantly reacting to the unfolding events without giving it deep thought is the perfect recipe for mediocrity. We are constantly reacting to things around us without any deliberate thought. We react to the stimuli. We get upset and we react to that and we jump and make changes. Giving yourself some time to think before you respond would prompt you to make a deliberate and rational decision. It also makes you think twice if you're responding in anger or frustration. And perfect example of this is at my with with the job that I'm working in now from the 9 to 5. They gave me a bunch of directives which I didn't like because of course I've always been an entrepreneur on my own, made my own schedule, and I had to leave it alone and respond Monday because it was given to me Friday, respond Monday after deep thought and deep understanding and a little bit and digging more for clarity. And then I felt better about it. It was easier for me to make the adjustment. So ask yourself, once you're making a decision, does it require something that I have to think slow or is it fast thinking? It saves us time and mental energy if we react not to the stimuli that's going on. I like if I would have answered the email right away, I would have reacted to the stimuli and would have not received it and would have got a reaction that I didn't want. But thinking through and slowly responding and thinking it through made the adjustment easier for me, and the reaction from the other party was well received. 9, incentives. Offer the right incentives, and you can almost do almost anything. And what I mean by incentives, most people respond to incentives. So incentives can also help you to understand the environment in which we are operating and make decisions. For instance, when the sugar prices rise, the sugar mills have incentives to sell the sugar they have been hoarding for months. They will even ramp up the production if possible. At the same time, consumers will try to cut the consumption due to the rising costs. But when the prices have skyrocketed, the buyer has the incentive to buy less, but the seller has a strong incentive to sell more. So, what that really is saying, the incentives, what are your incentives when you make this decision? What are your incentives? What will you get? The incentives, what will you get? Will things be sweeter as the sugar would be, Or will you not have eat sugar and lose more pounds? What's the incentive behind making the decision? And it has to be strong. It has the incentive has to be strong to make you make a decision. 10, trust your instincts. Simple and easy, especially when you're dealing with complex situations. You shouldn't underestimate your own instincts. I underestimated my own instincts again without having confidence because of trauma. I underestimated my own instincts. I had instincts that backed me up with all the data and all the things that were going on. I could have made a better decision, but I didn't have that piece of confidence to do that. I didn't trust my instincts. Trust your instincts. So, what do we get out of all of this? There's no guarantee that you'll make the right decision every single time, but I hope this will help you minimize the number of terrible decisions. With time and experience, we will learn to view the past bad decisions as information and experience that helps us make better decisions in the future. We shouldn't be too hard on ourselves if a decision leads to a bad outcome. But I just want you to know that make a decision. And what could I offer you? I want to offer you an opportunity, right? to be in our, again, wonderful inner circle, which is $99 per year. And we will delve into topics like this, right? And we will, it's usually 2 weeks of each subject. You'll have so much information. You'll have workbooks, ebooks, and even exercises. Like what I'm going to offer you right now is a worksheet for creating your bad decisions, for not creating, but for solving your bad decisions. I'm going to send you a PDF. If you want a PDF, I want you also, first of all, is to like, I always forget this, like and subscribe to my YouTube and press a little bell on top so whenever I send out a new video, you have it right on task. But let's go back to the worksheet. I'm going to send you a worksheet. It's a PDF on how to make a good decision. And it's going to be just a simple PDF, and you can print it out and use it for every decision that you are going to make. If you want that PDF, leave a comment below. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any comments, you have any questions, please look forward. Please, write them on the bottom. Send me an email. I'm very available. Thanks again for listening.